Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is NABILA binti ABDUL. And my metric number is Y91042209. Today, we will discuss about the relationship between poverty and economic growth. What is the meaning of poverty? Poverty is the condition of being extremely poor. Importantly, poverty is not just about the money, but also to provide basic necessities of life, such as food, clean water, shelter, and clothing. But for today's world, the necessities of life can be extended to include access to healthcare, education, transportation, and infrastructure. Poverty is measured differently in each country. The World Bank, on the other hand, is a widely respected authority on the subject of extreme poverty. The World Bank maintains a statistic known as the International Poverty Line, which defines extreme poverty as a living on less than $1.90 per day as 2015. This figure is calculated using the monetary value of a person's consumption rather than just the income. According to the World Bank Organization, poverty is hunger, poverty is lack of shelter, poverty is being sad and not being able to see a doctor. Poverty is not having access to school and not knowing how to read. Poverty is not having a job, it's fear for the future, living one day at a time. Before we proceed with discussion, I would like to let my friends introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is NATASYA AMEERA BINTI HUKMAN SANI. My metric number is 19104223332.
Hi, my name is ULYA binti NORAZMAN. My metric number is 191042237.
Hi, my name is MOHAMAD Azrol bin Azmi. My matrix number is 191042219.
Hi, my name is FARAH HUSNA binti RAHEZAD. My matrix number is 191042233.
Okay, now let's proceed with the discussion. Do you think that increasing in economic growth will reducing the poverty, AMEERA?
I do agree with this statement, as poverty can be reduced by economic growth measured in terms of gross domestic product growth or GDP. In other words, a high growth of GDP can more often than not help to lessen poverty. GDP growth therefore has a close relationship with the poverty levels in any country. In fact, most economists believe that economic growth benefits nearly all citizens of a country in reducing poverty. As in a study on economic growth and poverty reduction in Kazakhstan, using provincial data, it found that provinces with higher growth rates achieved a faster decline in poverty. Reduction in poverty was largely due to growth, which led to increased employment and higher wages.
I see your reasoning, but I disagree with the assertion that economic growth will reduce poverty. This is due to the fact that when the economy grows, income inequality increases. This will have a negative long-term effect on the level of gross domestic product per capita. It will reinforce common impression that the poor are being left behind. As illustration, rising inequality allows investors to raise their shares of financial assets backed by loans to employees, resulting in greater debt-to-income ratios and, as a result, more financial fragility. It seems to have the potential to result in financial crisis, then the country will be impoverished. Next, personally, I believe that as the economy grows, so will living costs, particularly in urban areas. This is due to the fact that as the economy grows, the cost of goods and services also increase. As a result, many low-income citizens, particularly that live in urban areas and for whom they are just starting out in their careers, mostly in this pandemic time, potentially getting involved with debt problems. Most of the reasons that they are in debt are due to paying dependents such as home loans, car, and also to buy necessities. or personal financing loans rather than long-term investment to build wealth. Due to additional expenditures, higher prices or higher quantities, some groups such as the disabled and those who live in rural locations have a higher or particular cost of living. The most important aspect of living cost is housing. Putting a roof over one's head requires a disproportionately large part of personal income, whether purchased or rented. Housing expenses have decreased during the current crisis, although they remain extremely high in relative terms.
I think that's the level point. According to the economists, the economic growth will provide higher average income. Economic growth enables consumers to consume more goods and services and enjoy better standard of living. Economic growth during the 20th century was a major factor in reducing absolute level of poverty and enabling a rise in life expectancy. For example, one study suggests that enabling a rise in life expectancy in Uganda at the end of the period would have been 30% instead of 58% had the poor benefited proportionally from growth. Plus, with strong economic growth, therefore advanced human development which in turn promote economic growth and created employment opportunities that can lead to poverty reduction and sustainability economic and social development. It can provide decent jobs that boost sector income and empowerment for the poor, especially women and younger people.
What is the proof that you have, NUHA?
Okay, this can be seen. Strong growth and employment opportunities improve incentive for parents to invest in their children education. By sending them to school, this may lead to the emergence of a strong and growing group of entrepreneurs which should generate pressure for improved governance.
I agree with the increasing of economy that will provide employment opportunity, but at the same time, factory development will lead to environmental issues. People tend to overuse every resource accessible to them. When their survival is in jeopardy due to a lack of resources and improper knowledge. I like to point out that natural resources influence the most when economic growth, whether directly or indirectly, and any demand on natural resources can result in environmental strife. However, as far as I am concerned, we often overlook the fact that the poverty-stricken are the most vulnerable to environmental pollution repercussions such as soil erosion, climate change, and global warming, because impoverished people rely more directly on the environment for their survival than the wealthy. They are disproportionately affected by environmental issues. In short, poor people take the burden on environmental degradation, negative consequences, whether economic, social, or mental and physical. As a result of this, the country's poverty level will rise.
Is it true that when disaster happens, the government will provide an educational sponsorship, especially to the students that are affected to their further study? As the economic grows in the country, the government able to provide sponsorship programs that focus on giving a sponsorship for poor students to further their study without worrying about the study cost. This program indirectly will help in reducing poverty, as their parents did not have to worry about the study cost while their children also managed to get a better education. According to that, a pool of top development economies rated educational sponsorship the most effective long-term development intervention for helping the poor, and this program is to be independently and empirically validated as effective. Do you support my point, Azrol?
I hold the same opinion as NUHA said. For me, financial inclusion also help reduce poverty issues in the world. An estimated 2 billion adults have no access to formal financial service worldwide. More than half of them live in Asia. Access to finance is a major constraint of doing businesses, especially at small and medium-sized enterprises, as known as SMEs. Study shows access to finance is positively correlated with economic growth and employment, although the causal relationship between them is harder to establish. It is widely believed that financial inclusions aid inclusive growth, economic development, and financial deepening. More specifically, it expands poor people access to financial services, increasing their economic opportunities and improving their life. Recognizing the positive impact of financial inclusion on growth and poverty reduction, the G20 leaders issued in 2009 in their first pronouncement on financial inclusion, and the following year endorsed 9 high-level principles for innovative financial inclusion. Do you agree with my opinion, Nabila?
I don't really agree with the topic that increasing of economic growth have a relationship with poverty. Not everyone who lacks an education lives in poverty. However, the vast majority of severely poor lack access to education. Many obstacles to education exist around the world, such as lack of fund for uniform and books, a bias against girls' education, or any of the other reasons of poverty state yet. Education, on the other hand, is sometimes referred to as the great equalizer, since it can provide access to jobs and other resources and skills that a family requires to not only survive but prosper. According to UNESCO, 171 million people could be pulled out of poverty if they graduate from high school with basic reading abilities. Poverty puts education at risk, yet education can also assist to elevate poverty. For the example, if the economy increases, the fees for education is also increases proportionally. The increases in fees make it hard for the poor people to continue their study because they are lack of money, and will make their rate of poverty is still the same. The work that a higher fee need a specific certificate such as engineer, it might need at least bachelor in certain area. The second point is the rapid growth of economy will lead to corruption. Corruption has a negative direct impact on economic growth. Corruption also has an indirect effect on country economic performance by affecting many factors, fueling economic growth such as investment, taxation, level, composition, and effectiveness of public expenditure. Based on the research, cross-country data indicate that corruption is consistently correlated with low growth rate, GDP per capita, economic equality, as well as levels of human development. The corruption will make a poor people become poorer, and the corrupt will become richer day by day. This kind of maltreatment should be stopped, especially in developed countries. The one nation development Berhad (1NDB) case is an example of corruption in the government. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib Razak loaned $4.5 billion from a state fund focused on financing infrastructure and other economic linked things. This scandal affected a widespread of people, including financial institutions from Malaysia to Singapore. What do you think about my opinion, Amira?
I see your point, Nabila, but I believe that corruption will not only occur in the country that has a stable economic status, but almost in all countries that not totally due to economic growth and also is not related to the poverty as well. As for me, with the economic growth, government will be able to provide an access to technology and innovation. Innovation is an essential driver of economic progress that benefits consumers, businesses, and the economy as a whole, and it also contributes to the reduction of poverty as well. As the economy grows, the country is able to provide access to technology and innovation to their citizens. As example, accessibility of internet and affordable energy. This looks simple, but really matters for every country. As for example, in Bangladesh, only 40% of the rural poor has access to grid electricity. Those with access experience frequent power outage. The second rural electricity and renewable energy development project plans to increase access to electricity in the rural area through renewable energy sources. Another example of innovation is the development of steam engine technology in the 8th century. Steam engine could be put to use in factories, enabling mass production, and they revolutionized transport with the railways. More recently, information technology transformed the way companies produce and sell their goods and services, while opening up new markets and new business models. In order to support my first point, I also made a research that says rapid economic growth can potentially bring a high rate of expansion of productive and remunerative employment, which can lead to a reduction in poverty. As an example, productive employment opportunities will contribute substantially to achieving the internationally agreed development goals, especially the Millennium Development Goals of halving extreme poverty by 2015. Many employment strategies are often related to agricultural and rural development and include using labor-intensive agricultural technologies, developing small and medium-sized enterprise, and promoting micro-projects in rural areas. Many strategies promote self-employment, non-farm employment in rural areas, targeted employment intervention, microfinance and credit as means of employment generation, skill formation and training. What do you think, Azrol? Did you agree with my point?
Well, I agree with AMEERA about the economic growth. It also important as economic infrastructure. Economic infrastructure refers to the facilities, activities and services which support operation and development of other sectors of the economy. These facilities, activities and services help in increasing the overall productivity of the economy. They also play an essential role in facilitating the smooth running of all the sectors of the economy. In addition, infrastructures are such basic requirements like railways, roads, ships, airways, communication, and others. They also include energy, banking, science, technology, health, education, and others public utility concerns. Without the existence and presence of economic infrastructures, the growth and fast pace of the economy is impossible. These are the some of the most critical significance of economic infrastructures and its impact on the economy. The first one is the smooth functioning of the economy. Infrastructural facilities are very necessary and vital for the smooth functioning of the economy. They are like wheels of development without which the economy will not be able to function properly. The second thing is development of agriculture. The development of agriculture to a considerable extent depends on the adequate expansion and development of irrigation, credit, transport, power, marketing, training and education. It also depends on the improvement of research and development and other such facilities. The third one is development of industry. Industrial production requires not only machinery and equipment, but also requires the following like energy, skilled manpower, management, banking, insurance, transportation services are crucial. These activities and facilities will directly lead to the development of the industrial sector of the economy. What do you think about my opinion, which is economic infrastructure, Nabila?
I see what you are getting at, but when the economic growth happens, it will lead to inflation. Inflation is the strongest and critical thing that the poverty will get an effect from increasing of economic growth. Aggregate demand will rise as the economy grows. If aggregate demands grow faster than supply grows, the economy will have an excess of demand but lack of supply. As a result, production will tend to rise price, which is referred to as inflation. Overheating will occur if aggregate demand continues to rise while the economy is already operating at maximum capacity. As a result, substantial inflation will occur with little or no rise in output. Due to the obvious significant economic development in the 1980s, inflation in the United Kingdom rose by 10% regarding by UK recession.
I see your point, ASYIQIN. No doubt that about inflation affects growth by changing the labor supply and demand, and thus reducing aggregate employment in the sector that is subject to increasing returns. The reduction in the level of employment reduce the marginal productivity of capital. So, do you guys agree with my opinion, which is economy can help to reduce poverty?
Yes, I agree.
Yes, I'm also agree.
Yes, I am totally agree.
Yes, I'm agree that the economic growth will help to reduce the poverty in each country.
Okay, so as for the conclusion, I can confirm that rising up the economy can help to reduce poverty issues. Based on the point given, my fellow group members said that poverty can be reduced by increasing employment opportunities. Creating jobs helps the economy by increasing gross domestic products, which is GDP. When an individual is employed, they are paid by their employer. This results in them having money to spend in society, such as on food, clothing, entertainment, and a variety of other areas. The more an individual spends, the more their demands increase. When demand for products or service increase, the companies increase their output to meet the increased demand. Companies do this by investing more and hiring more workers. More workers start the cycle over, with there being even more money spent in the economy, increasing demand further. That's all for our discussions today. Thank you.